Why start your own production company?
Actually, somebody said to me, CBS should really be funding a production company for you. I said, really? So as part of that 1, 2, 3, the third thing was, you got to fund this production company for me. And you can get a first look at whatever I produce. So the first thing that we produce is this lovely 3-judge program called Hot Bench, which is now going into its 4th season. Which,
by the way, was your original idea for your show, right?
Yes, the name for it was the original idea. And that's funny also. The mavens who know everything, they say, Hot Bench, what kind of a name for that is the program? Just listen to this thinking, okay? Hot Bench. What kind of a ridiculous name is that? Is it Hot Bitch? Is it Hot Bed? I'm telling you, that's what they came back to me with. So I said, fine, you don't want to call it Hot Bench, call it Judge Judy. They said, oh, Judge Judy we can live with. Now, if they had called my program Hot Bench, they could have replaced me when I gave them this little envelope and said, these are the 3 things that I want. Because anybody...
Yes, right?
Right? Always trying to outsmart. So fortunately for me, we called it Judge Judy. And Hot Bench, which is a novel little idea. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's 3 judges who do pretty much the same thing that I do, but then the public gets to see them watch deliberations. It's actually a good idea for people whose face is in front of the camera, and I'm 74. And there'll be a time when even all the lights in the Empire State Building won't be able to illuminate this face so it can remain on television. And, unless you put a flashlight between your legs and walk around with it permanently. So you have to have something else to do. You have to, if you want to stay engaged, find a third career, find something else. And I thought that this might be a good way for me to ensure that I always had something to do. I don't play golf, I don't play bridge, I don't play tennis. I exercise a little bit, but as you know, an hour and then it's one and done. I don't cook anymore. And you can just vacation so much. So.
Just a real quick note, Hot Bench is actually a legal term. I just wanted you to share that in case some of our audience members didn't know. Hot Bench is a legal term. Hot Bench is a term that's usually referred to as to an appellate court who peppers with questions the attorneys who are arguing a case before it, who the judges are really familiar with the facts in the case. It's a hot bench rather than a passive bench. That's where the term comes from, hot bench. So when you started your professional career, and looking back at that to the present, how has women's roles in the workplace changed, do you think?
I know that when I started law school, I first started in Washington, D.C. I was one out of a class of 126. And then, I don't know if any of you know my history, but I did as most women did then. I found a guy, because I was 21, and already my grandmother was saying, oi. So I found a very nice guy, and we were getting married, and he had a job in New York where he was making $75 a week. So of course I had to follow him from Washington, D.C. to New York. That's what you did then. And I went to law school here in New York, at New York Law School, where women were about as welcome as a skunk at a lawn party. There were 5 women. The professors were brutal to the women. It toughened you up. And then my first job was with Cosmere Incorporated, L'Oreal of Paris. It was just a job, but they hired 2 new lawyers, a man and a woman. And the guy was not as smart as I was, not as good a lawyer, but they made him a lawyer. And me, they gave a pencil and a pad, and I was calling Duane Drugstore for their orders of suffrage and hair dye, and that's the job they gave to me. So I left that job within a relatively short period of time. And then I went on to the family court, where I found that it didn't make any difference what your sex was. If you were a good lawyer, you were a good lawyer. And I know that this is probably the wrong thing to say among this group of women, but I never considered myself a feminist. I didn't join feminine organizations. I was a lawyer. I wasn't a Jewish lawyer. I wasn't a young lawyer. I wasn't a female lawyer. I was a lawyer. And when I became a judge, I felt the same way. I was a judge. I never felt as if I were measured by my gender. And certainly I joke now that I certainly don't want pay parity with guys.